You've tuned into Bent Air.
That legislation gives us hope that we will someday soon be equal.
Wait a minute. Kylie Minogue is from Australia.
I know, you would think.
Hey, what the devil is all the fuss about? I don't get it. What's in there? Bing bong! Hello!
1976, when I made this public, I went and knocked on the neighbours' doors in rural Tasmania, and they were fantastic about it.
This is your weekly LGBTIQ community radio show.
And I am here today because I am gay, and I'm tired of hiding.
The Hobart City Council apologises for prohibiting the gay law reform stall at Salamanca Market in 1988.
Did you know that dolphins are just gay sharks?
I was sure from at the age of about 4 or 5, I should be a girl. I'm not supposed to be a boy, wanting to play girls' games and play with the girls at school.
The boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her.
I wanna be her. Yes, I do.
On Edge Radio 99.3 FM.
Be kind to one another.
Good morning, it's Tracy here in the studio on Edge Radio 99.3 FM, which is the home, that's right, the home of Bent Air, which is Tasmania's only LGBTIQ radio show, which is very special, and that makes Edge very special as well. Yeah, it's Tracy here, and I'm going to be bringing you lots of queer stuff, news going on, events, issues, and as always, lots of fabulous queer artists as well, playing fabulous music. Edge, as well as supporting Bent Air. Bent Air is also proudly supported by TasCard, which is the Tasmanian Council of AIDS, Hepatitis and Related Diseases, and Working It Out, which is Tasmania's peak education, support and counselling service for LGBTIQ people. The Link as well, the Link Youth Health Centre in the city, also supports us. So yeah, they're fabulous organisations, and we really do appreciate them helping to enable the opportunity to bring you Tasmania's only LGBTIQ radio show. We always encourage people to start more shows if they would like to, but at the same time, if that's just a little bit overwhelming at the moment, we certainly encourage people to get involved with ours. We're always on the lookout for more presenters, whether they're regular presenters or only every now and then. We'd love to hear from you if you've got an idea or an issue you'd like to discuss, if you can suggest a song or an artist you'd like to hear, a queer affiliated event that you'd like to promote, anything like that. The best way is to get in touch is probably on our Facebook page. So that's facebook.com/Bent Air Radio. Yeah. So yeah, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. On this beautiful Thursday morning, it's very sunny out there. I'm going to start the show with a bit of music from Ruby Rose. She's a fabulous queer Australian artist, and getting busy on all sorts of in all sorts of mediums. But this one is Break Free. Enjoy. You're listening to Bent Air. You're listening to Bent Air on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. We always put the links to articles we mentioned, stories, events up on our Facebook page, and we also put, wherever we can find them, links to the music as well. And you can find a link to Break Free by Ruby Rose up on our Facebook page very soon. It's an amazing video. It sort of looks at gender fluidity and that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's she's been doing a lot of forays into sort of that area of exploring her own identity and putting it out there through music. So yeah, it's great to see queer Australian artists exploring that stuff. Not surprisingly, you're listening to a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex and queer focused show, and it's the only one here in Tasmania, but we love doing it, and we love the fact that Edge Radio 99.3 FM is the one that is out there enough and fabulous enough to allow us to do it. So if you're not a subscriber to Edge Radio, you really should be. It costs peanuts, and you get to go in the draw for subscriber-only prizes throughout the year. You get informed before anyone else about things that are happening with Edge Radio and events that they have, and things they have coming up. So it's well worth your while. Not to mention, you just get the fabulous warm fuzzies of being a supporter of a youth broadcaster and a community radio station that you'd, let's face it, really miss if it wasn't here. I know I would. I'd be sitting here in the studio and looking quite silly. Fortunately, I'm not. I am actually talking on a studio that's working, and that's fantastic. But yeah, think about it. Become a subscriber to Edge Radio. It's well worth your while, and it's a fabulous thing to do. So, stuff happening in the world. I work for TasCard, which, as I mentioned earlier, is the Tasmanian Council of AIDS, Hepatitis and Related Diseases. Of course, we work a lot in the HIV advocacy and information and prevention space. And there is quite a little bit happening at the moment. There's several national campaigns which in Tasmania we are responsible for also rolling out. If you have been getting around on the streets of a couple of towns around Tasmania, you may have seen the time to test posters or signs on buses around about the place. I'm seeing them fairly regularly, but that might be because I happen to share the route of some of those buses. The Time to Test campaign is a fairly long-running campaign now, and as the name suggests, it's looking at trying to increase people's access to HIV testing, to do it more regularly and to get empowered and engaged with their own health. And just be more aware, I guess, of HIV prevention or, if needed, HIV treatment options. Time to test is something that came about because we still, in some areas, have unacceptably low rates of people being proactive and getting tested at all, or at least getting tested regularly. In Tasmania, the last gay national periodic survey showed that almost half of all young guys 25 years or under who have sex with other guys have never had an HIV test. And that's not to say that they especially should be, but the reality is what we know from the evidence, from research, is that some of those guys are at times at a higher risk of HIV infection, and so it's really worth their while to be getting tested regularly, and via that testing also just getting engaged better with their sexual health in general. So Time to Test is one of those campaigns that hopefully helps to get those numbers higher in terms of young guys getting in there, getting tested. A lot of them think it's just a bit too difficult and don't want to sit around for a week nervously waiting, and that's because they don't realise that they don't have to do that anymore. We've got rapid testing. You can go in and it takes 20 minutes. So, sexual health services around about the state are the ones that have that available, rapid testing. There are some days where you don't even have to make an appointment. I'll put the number and the link up for sexual health services on our Facebook page, on Bentair Facebook page for you. But yeah, time to test. It really is time. It might seem a bit of a scary thing, and certainly we know that a lot of the stigma associated with HIV still lingers and is still very much at the forefront of people's minds. But HIV is another chronic condition that is treatable and manageable these days. Certainly, if you're someone who knows you may have at times been in a high-risk situation in terms of HIV infection, then the best thing you can possibly do for yourself is to actually get control of that. Go in and get a test, either be relieved because it's negative, or if it turns out to be positive, to actually be able to do something and keep yourself healthy. And also, by being on treatment, keep yourself from putting anyone else at risk. People on treatment have undetectable viral loads, and they actually have very low to almost zero risk of passing it on to anyone else. They're the good news things about HIV people. So yeah, look out for those buses with the Time to Test campaign. And if it's something that speaks to you, because in the end, really, I think most sexually active people should pretty well be going in and getting an HIV test occasionally. Heterosexual people who don't use condoms are also at risk of HIV infection. So everyone who's ever been in an at-risk situation like that really should consider a full sexual health checkup. Again, sexual health services are fantastic. They are non-judgmental, absolutely uber confidential and private, and they're just fabulous people, and can probably really set you on a path of sexual health, which you may not have considered before. Get onto it. I'm going to play some Troye Sivan. He's a regular on our show. We love playing him. He's a young Australian queer artist. He was born in South Africa but moved to Perth in Western Australia, and he's only 20 years old, and he's already done so much. This is from his Blue Neighbourhood album. There's about 3 songs that are all under the banner Blue Neighbourhood Part 1, 2 and 3. This is Part 1 of 3, and it is called Wild. You're listening to Bent Air. The Blue Neighbourhood series basically tells a childhood story, like two friends who begin to fall in love, and like issues with kind of dysfunctional, non-supportive parent, and growing up in a fairly rural area, that sort of stuff. Lots of challenges that people would be very familiar with in all sorts of ways. Just trying to adjust that technology again. No, it's still going. That's amazing. Right, now I'll stop being discombobulated. There we go. Yeah, so it's a really interesting one to check out, and I'm sorry, apologies about that. Not surprisingly, you are listening to Bent Air on Edge Radio 99.3. That's as bent as it gets. I might, if we have time, I'll play the second song out of that trilogy by Troye Sivan, because it is really fabulous, and it's an amazing video piece as well, video narrative, if you like. So yeah, we've been talking a lot in the last few weeks about the safe schools stuff and everything that's going on there. The fallout is still continuing. There are a few states, the ACT is not a state, but Territory and the state of Victoria have both said that they will definitely do their best to continue safe schools, and they'll fund it themselves, which can be a worry in itself, because when states I like the defiance, but when states sort of say, well, we'll take it over and we'll fund it, then the federal government gets to sort of go, oh, good, well, we don't have to anymore anyway. But, obviously it does appear that they weren't going to. But it is the way in which it's happened, the concerning manner in which what seems like a minority were responsible for having the changes made. The changes really do water down the potential and the strength of the Safe Schools program and what it has so far been able to achieve. There isn't a single school who has it, who has put it in place, that have said they agreed with the changes. They've universally said that they think it should stay as is. There's been a lot of misinformation sent around by various organisations and members of the government, which is a real shame. But certainly what is heartening is the way so many people have come out to rallies. There was a big one in Melbourne not too late, sometime last week. Thousands of people gathering to show their support for the Safe Schools Coalition and the Safe Schools program, and to protest the changes that the government has flagged. So, and the fact that they've said that they will not be refunding it beyond its funding around this time. So yeah. At the moment, it seems like it will continue as the government has said, which is a shame. It's great that some states are looking at going at their own. Quite a few have petitions as well, including in Tasmania. I haven't got a link available, but if you go looking on Facebook, there's an e-Parliament petition that has been put out asking the government to guarantee that they will continue support and education that is inclusive of LGBTI young people in schools. So if you're interested in signing that, then track it down. I'll see if I can find a link and put it up onto our Facebook page later. Now, I was going to play you a song, but I think everything's moved around thanks to my fiddling around. No, it looks like it's all right. Okay, I'm going to play another Australian queer artist. This is Brendan McLean. He always has a fair bit of humour in his music, and this is no different. There may be a little bit of swearing in it too, so just a swear alert in case you're easily offended. And this song is called Hugs Not Drugs, or both. Brendan McLean, Hugs Not Drugs, or both. I should say that the opinions therein expressed in that song are in no way necessarily condoned or supported by Bent Hair, but, or both, whatever. Brendan McLean is always a bit of fun. The video is quite amusing as usual as well. We always put the links up to music we play and stories we talk about and that sort of thing on Bent Air, because you're on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. This is Bent Air. It's a queer show. We do queer stuff, and that's the way we like it. Speaking of queer stuff, I notice in some of the queer press that they have announced the cast for SBS's gay hate crime drama. I know that doesn't sound terribly nice, but yeah, they're going to be doing a drama. It's a 4-part series, I believe, which actually looks at a period of time over the 80s and 90s in Sydney, where there was a series of unexplained deaths, things labelled as suicides, disappearances, and that sort of stuff. And so it looks at that period of time and the people who were involved in it. I'll just read a bit of it. Haunted by the disappearance of her teenage brother, Tori's fascination with the case soon turns to fixation. And when more ritualistic murders occur with the same bizarre signature, Tori and Nick will need to put their relationships, their careers and their lives on the line to finally reveal the truth. The 4-hour crime thriller stars a variety of people that may be well known or not. But yeah, it's called Deepwater. It's due to be aired on SBS later this year, although they don't actually have the screening dates yet, but they're just announcing that they have confirmed the cast. So that's one to watch out for. Noah Taylor's in it, most recently from Game of Thrones, but of course a very famous Australian actor. Yale Stone from Orange is the New Black. There are a couple of the well-known names who are going to be part of the new crime drama on SBS Deepwater. Watch out for it. It'll be interesting to see how they cover it. I mean, of course, it's going to be a pretty dark and painful sort of drama for some people in lots of ways. But yeah, it's great to see queer history, dark and light, is being covered more and more in the media. So that's fantastic. All right. I'm going to play a young Brisbane band. We've played them a bit lately. This is the Goon Sax. They've got a new album out, Up to Anything. They only formed in 2013. They were still in high school. I think some of them still are in high school. It's funny, we've played songs like I Need a Boyfriend and a couple of other tunes. And I've been thinking, geez, they really remind me of the earlier 80s band, the Go-Betweens. The sound is quite similar, and I guess I assume that they were just heavily influenced by them. And as it turns out, I was having a read up about them, and there's a reason that they might be heavily influenced by the Go-Betweens. The Goon Sax frontman, guitar player and singer Louis Forster, turns out is Robert Forster's son, and Robert Forster was, of course, one half of the songwriting duo in the Go-Betweens. So it's no wonder there's a bit of a similarity of sound there. It'd be difficult to not be influenced by such a famous and incredibly talented dad in that regard. This song is, what is it called? I Don't Need Anything. It's also off their album Up to Anything. I'm going to play this and then I'm going to play a Go-Between song so you can get to actually compare and contrast. But yeah, this one is the Goon Sax, Up to Anything. That was the Goon Sax with I Don't Need Anything I Want. I didn't quite finish off the title of the song earlier. You're listening to Bent Air. I was saying before that track that I was wondering why, not wondering, but noticing that they really sounded very similar to the Go-Betweens, so they certainly had a lot of influence going on there. And then I had read that the lead singer in the Goon Sax is the son of one of the singers and songwriters of the Go-Betweens. So I thought I'd play the Go-Betweens now as a follow-up. Obviously, this is early in the Goon Sax career, so the sound is a little bit more simple, a bit less polished, a little less produced, but I reckon you'll still see some of the some of the influences. So this is a famous one by the Go-Betweens, Streets of Your Town. They even have the same counting. It's really cute. Oh, that was the twinkly tones of the Go-Betweens. I lived in Brisbane for a while when they were playing and stuff. It takes me back, But you are listening to Bent Air, and what did you think? Could you hear the influence of the Go-Betweens with the Goon Sax? Hopefully you could. There are a lot of similarities, and it's fabulous. That I think the Goon Sax are going to be hopefully a band that go a long, long way. And I'm hoping we might be able to talk to them on the radio on our show very soon. We will now bring you some news from our friends at Joy 94.9. They fabulously every week put a compilation of queer news, international, national and local, out for us, and we get to share it with you as well. So we will now head to them at QNN.
Made in Melbourne for Australia and the world. This is the Joy 94.9 GLBTIQ News Roundup, a weekly update of what's been happening in the gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans and intersex communities.
Hello and welcome to QNN. I'm Adam Samuel.
And I'm Alistair Kingston. It appears the government has shelved plans to produce the ground rules for and wording of the plebiscite on same-sex marriage until after the federal election, which is expected to be held on the 2nd of July. Previously, the Attorney General's Department had been aiming to deliver on these before Easter. However, it's been reported the threat of divisions within the coalition and fears the issue will distract MPs from the government's election focus areas of economics and unions have delayed the process. However, opposition leader Bill Shorten is threatening to make same-sex marriage an election issue, promising a Labor government would hold a vote in Parliament within 100 days of the election, avoiding the need for a plebiscite.
Meantime, Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews has warned of the bitter debate a gay marriage plebiscite could trigger, urging the federal government to instead introduce legislation to make it legal for same-sex couples to wed. Speaking on the ABC's Q&A program, Mr Andrews said a plebiscite after the election could lead to a very divisive and spiteful argument between the opposing sides, comparing it to the recent controversy over the Safe Schools program.
A raft of Hollywood studios, including Marvel, Disney and AMC, who make the hit TV show The Walking Dead, are threatening to stop filming in the US state of Georgia if it passes controversial anti-gay legislation. The proposed laws would offer protections to faith-based entities that refuse to provide services they say would violate their beliefs, with opponents saying the legislation promotes discrimination against LGBT people. If the studios pull out, it'll have a big implication for Georgia's economy, with Marvel's recent Ant-Man film employing 3,500 Georgians and pumping more than $100 million into the state economy.
A new video started going viral, taking aim at the Australian Christian lobby's attacks on the safe school and marriage equality issues, but in a light-hearted way. Produced by comedian Dan Illick, the video features members of the Australian Lapsed Catholics lobby who say the ACL doesn't speak for them.
Think of it this way. Marriage equality around the world is kind of like eating meat on Fridays.
Everyone's doing it now.
Illick says he got the idea for the Lapsed Catholics lobby while watching the ABC's Q&A when the ACL's Lyle Shelton was on and realised Shelton didn't represent his own views as a Christian.
Singer Annie Lennox has been awarded a prestigious medal for her activism on HIV and AIDS. Eurythmics legend was presented with the Royal Scottish Geographic Society's Livingston Medal for her work. She's previously been awarded an OBE for her consistent activism on the issues of HIV and AIDS and sexual health across the world. Lennox's advocacy has particularly focused on the HIV pandemic in Africa, and she says she dreams of seeing the end of AIDS in the not-too-distant future.
And briefly now, a Saudi man could have found himself in very hot water for flying a rainbow flag he bought online. He told religious police who arrested him he had no idea the flag represented LGBT pride and only bought it as one of his kids found the colours pretty.
2,000 people have rallied outside Melbourne's State Library to protest changes to safe schools.
And Aussie actors Rachel Griffiths and Guy Pearce are set to start in a new US miniseries called When We Rise, following a group of families fighting for gay rights in America.
And now at this week's QNN Sport, here's Tanya Lewis.
A gay athlete in America has broken a Guinness World Record by running a half marathon in a business suit. Rex Woodbury ran the New York Half Marathon last week with a time of 1 hour 18 minutes, beating the previous time of 1 hour 24. He says he spends so much time in a suit he thought it would be funny to try it out. An anti-gay basketball coach in the US has been forced to work with LGBT youth in order to educate himself about homophobia. Years ago, Colorado Mesa College coach Sean McKinney was reported by a student for saying that they, quote, kill gay people in the state of Wyoming. McKinney has apologised for his comments and is still working with the university and LGBT groups to wipe out homophobic language on campus. North Carolina may lose its NBA All-Star Game bid after passing an anti-LGBT bill. The National Basketball Association is concerned about the new law in NC, which removes LGBT-inclusive non-discrimination ordinances across the state. The NBA released a statement on Twitter saying that the discriminatory law counters the league's principles of equality and may impact on Charlotte's ability to successfully host the match.
Thanks, Tanya, and that's what's making LGBT headlines for another week. I'm Adam Samuel.
And I'm Alistair Kingston.
Thanks to the team at QNN. That was the Joy 94.9 GLBTIQ News Roundup. To hear this update again, you can subscribe to the QNN podcast, available at joy.org.au/QNN. Or you can follow QNN on Twitter, @QNN Australia. @QNN Australia.
That was Hayley Kiyoko. Girls like girls. Yes. Yes, indeed they do. You're listening to Bent Air on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. Well, I'm listening to that song fade away. And thanks to our friends at Joy 94.9 before that track with the QNN, the Community Network News. All over my words today. It was, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but they mentioned that viral video is poking a bit of fun at the Australian Christian lobby and their stance on marriage equality and safe schools stuff and all that sort of thing with the Australian Lapsed Catholic lobby. We've actually posted a link to that video on our Facebook page at Bent Air. Facebook.com/Bent Air Radio. So you can find it there if you scroll down past the songs we've been playing and that sort of thing. It's very funny. It's nice to see people just, I guess, having a bit of fun with it. It's obviously something that is pretty serious and is having a lot of impact on people, but it's good to be able to poke fun at your protagonists as well, or antagonists, I suppose I should say. You're listening to Bent Air, as I said. We're sort of coming towards the end of the show. Women on Edge will be up next, so stay tuned for them. I'm continuing my year of David Bowie tributes, of course, not surprisingly. This is a song called TVC15. It's off his album Station to Station, which was released in 1976. This is there's always been lots of ideas about what the lyrics are referring to, and nobody's ever been quite clear about it. But it seems to be being sung by a man who's fallen in love with his television and just wants to disappear into the television, basically. And yeah, it's about transition. It's about heading down a rainbow path. It's all that sort of thing, and it's probably actually about nothing at all. But anyway, this is the year of David Bowie tributes. This is TVC15. That was David Bowie, TVC15 from the '76 album Station to Station. And speaking of, that's a great segue. You're listening to Bent Air on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. We're nearly at the end of the show, but speaking of David Bowie, TasPride have just announced the Queen's Ball theme. They'll be having stuff on their website soon and probably put out a Facebook event page as well. But for the moment, they've just made a brief announcement on the TasPride Facebook page. The theme is Life on Mars, and it is indeed a tribute to David Bowie. So there you go. Of course, being called Life on Mars, you could do just about anything, sci-fi, space, homage to David Bowie himself, whatever you like. But that's something to start thinking about in terms of your costume, because we love costumes at the Queen's Ball. It's not till June, so you do have some time. It's the Queen's birthday weekend, I think the second weekend that is in June on the Sunday night, and it is at Hotel Soho again, as it was last year, which is fantastic because that means we can fit a big crowd in. They've been doing more renovation work, so more bars, more spaces to boogie down, that sort of thing. So that's something to look forward to. Keep an eye out on the TasPride Facebook page and website for further news on that. But yes, Life on Mars, the Queen's Ball theme for 2016. That's very exciting. All right, my name's Tracy. It's been a pleasure to be bringing you Bent Air this week. We may revisit an old show next week because I think there is a certain lack of availability of all us announcers next week. But I'll talk to the Edge Radio people about that. As we always say at the beginning of the show, we'd love to hear from you if you would like to in some way contribute to Bent Air, whether you'd like to be an announcer, presenter, someone who would like to promote an event, or just suggest things for discussion, that sort of stuff. We'd love to hear from you. Get in touch with us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Bent Air. I'm going to go out with a bit of a queer fave from the Scissor Sisters today. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Have a great week.